You grew up in Islamorada, Florida, the sport fish capital of the world.
Right.
Later in your life, but your early life, you were elsewhere. I think your dad was a beer distributor up in Miami area.
Right.
But Drew Moret, your lineage, your DNA comes from great stock. Your dad, Sandy Moret, ran the Florida Keys Outfitters, the business and the school forever. One of the legends, one of the giants of saltwater fly fishing. Your dad won 3 gold cups and 5 fall flies. Fished with Flip on Walker's Cay Chronicle. What does that mean to grow up with a name like Moret?
Well, some of it, being a fishing guide, means a lot of pressure as well. I mean, I think some of the time when you started to become a fishing guide, people would get on your boat and they maybe expected a little bit more just being on your boat than they might have expected being on somebody else's because they've heard that name. But it also was amazing growing up in the time that we, was able to grow up. My brother, my dad, he always took us fishing, and we used to go to Flamingo all the time and do a lot of red fishing. And my brother and I would be next to each other on the bow of the boat, and he would call out where a shot was. And, my brother would take it and then I would take it, and we'd be so far off, and all of a sudden a plug would come flying from the back of the boat and land exactly where it needed to be, and he'd hook the redfish and hand it down. And then as we got older, those shots started to land in the right place. And then we started to hook them and catch them and stuff like that a little more. But, we were right in the thick of it in Islamorada, at a great time. We used to have a house on Port Antigua Beach, and we'd have a pair of binoculars on the table, and the table was outside on the balcony, and every now and again you'd pick up the binoculars and you'd see tailing bonefish down there.
Wow! And
whoever spotted the bonefish got to grab the fly rod and go down and try and catch them.
Did you catch them often?
We caught some. I think my dad caught a lot more because he lived there full time, and my brother and I still lived in Coral Gables. But yeah, no, sure, you catch them right off the back of the house right there. You'd see bonefish. A slick, calm evening, and you'd see them tailing right off the back of the house.
What an incredible backyard to grow up in.
It was unbelievable. Yeah, no, it really was. And, the characters were all larger than life. I mean, Steve Huff and Flip Pallot and my dad and Chico Fernandez and Rick Ruoff and all these guys were, they're just, legends, but they also are some of the most humble people you'll ever be around. And I think that's because almost every day that you go tarpon fishing, something humbles you in one way or another.
Sure.
Like as soon as you think I know they're going to come here and they're going to do this, all of a sudden they come from over there. So it's like, it's dealing with Mother Nature. It is one of those things where you're always learning and you're always, doing so. But I was lucky. I caught my first tarpon on fly with Steve Huff, my first tarpon on a spinning rod with Steve Huff, caught a giant permit with my dad pulling me one day. We were on a bank out by, it's called the Lord's Flat, he said, because in a bonefish tournament, they lost a big bonefish, and they said, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. So but a big permit was coming off the flat, and I had a live shrimp, and I threw at it, and I caught the permit, and I don't know, it's probably a 30-pound permit with my dad. So that's always been a very special memory.
Right.
With him.
Was your dad a difficult instructor, mentor, or was he pretty cool?
So I would say he was a little anal in the boat about things being clean and stuff like that. But no, as far as a teacher and like being patient and everything like that, he was amazing.
Did you hear that, Dad?
He would talk to you.
He was the unicorn of fathers teaching their children how to fish.
My dad was the complete opposite, I'll tell you that.
I see that all the time. I mean, I had a guy in my boat today, and holler at us, you get off the fly line, and I'm just sitting there like, I never talk to my kids like that. But, it's an intense situation and an intense moment, but he was always good. And I was very lucky as a fishing guide because I fished with Steve Huff. Mm-hmm. And Steve Huff could be talking to you right now, 11 o'clock, no, pick it up and go more to the right. Okay, strip it. And that's the demeanor in the boat. And I've gotten complimented a lot by my clients because I learned that from my dad as well as Steve, that it doesn't make a craziness in the boat. Oh, no, more right, more right. So now you're permeating that to your client on the bow of the boat who's already, I mean, sometimes my boat is shaking and it's because his knees are knocking. So now you're elevating that situation and you're not even coming close to helping you catch.
Yeah, no question.
Those fish. So no, he was great in the boat. He always took us fishing, and hunting. I mean, we were really mad at the ducks as well. I mean, it's like they attacked a school bus or something like that. We were going after them because they did it right. We had these airboats and used to go all over Lake Okeechobee. Flip was up there, John Donnell, and another handful of guys. And I mean, they were great at that, but he's always been really calm and, fun to be with, fun to go hunting with, and fun to fish with. Now, as a guide, I get nervous when I take him fishing. Like a normal client, I just go fishing and no problem. Even at this point, and he's the easiest guy you could take fishing or whatever, I still put this weight or more expectation on my shoulder when I take my old man fishing.
And what is that pressure? You just hope you find them, or
just you want to do well in his eyes.
Sure.
And this is like you taking fishing, and he could care less if he gets a shot or not. You know what I mean? He just likes.
You want to make him proud.
I want to make him proud,
Yeah.
of course. Everyone wants to make your dad proud.
yeah. How do you feel, Nikki, when we fish together? You don't think like that, do you? Because we fish
not
so
really,
much together.
because
We're more like buddies.
That's not my profession. I mean, if I was a professional fishing guide down here, for sure I'd feel that way. But
Right.
we're just fun fishing, and we're going to the spots that you know, and you told me a long time ago. I didn't find these spots. It's not my profession, so I don't lose sleep over it. But
Well, also, too, I think that we're together so much. We're more friends than father and son on a number of occasions. Don't you feel?
100%. I feel like you're more my best friend than father.
Right.
Did you feel like you?
No, I've always felt like my father was my father.
Yeah.
I think we've transferred a little bit more now where it's as more of a friendship and stuff like that. But, growing up, my dad was my dad. You know what I mean? And he was a great dad. I can't complain about that. Yeah, he was a great dad.
How about your brother? What kind of a relationship did you have with him?
We have a great.
Did he have the fishing bug like yourself?
He has it, but he's really a family man as well. Now he's a great fly caster, a great fisherman. He does a fair amount of offshore stuff. Their buddies will go over to the Bahamas a lot, and they catch yellowfin tunas and deep drop, a lot of groceries for the table. We have a great relationship. We don't see each other maybe as much as we could because, he lives in Miami and I'm in the Keys fishing all the time. But we probably try and get out a couple of times a year together.
But how about when you were younger?
We got along good. It was a little, we were close in age. And when we were younger, we were great. We hung out with some of the same friends and stuff like that. And, it was a great relationship for sure.
Now, when you went to high school, did you study and go to school with the same guys? You didn't study and go to school. That means no.
I wasn't the student. No,
all of the above. No.
Yeah, no. But I had I still have a good group of friends from high school that I still spend time with, and they'll come down and go fishing every now and again, and still stay in touch with. Probably 4 or 5 guys that I went to high school with are still pretty tight.
At what age did you know you were going to become a fishing guide, or did you fall into it?
About 10 or 11.
Is that right?
Yeah, no, it's a funny story. I told Flip that I wanted to be a fishing guide, and I'd like to take him fishing. And I lived on Biscayne Bay, and I had a little McKee craft, like a 13-foot McKee craft, and Flip made time and comes down, and we go fishing, and we go out to the featherbed banks, and we don't see any bonefish whatsoever. But he ends up catching a little porgy, which is, a nothing fish. And he has me take a picture of him with this porgy. And about a month later, I get a package in the mail, and it's a framed picture of Flip with a porgy. And it says, "Good luck on your guiding career, Flip Pallot."
That's pretty cool, though.
Oh my God.
That's pretty cool.
And Flip is like that, I mean, he does stuff like that, a fair amount. And, but I knew early on, and obviously you waver away from it a little bit as you get older and you're chasing girls around and going wakeboarding and hydrosliding, but it kind of always came back to me. And, I'm 52 years old and I frickin' still get nervous and love it. I mean, I still love it, I mean, I still want to do it all the time. I want to go chase these tarpon with a fly rod. And, that's all I want to do when I'm on the water. People are like, oh, let's go bone fishing. I'm like, no.
I was going to say that you fish with Adam and Baker, good friends of ours.
Yep.
Adam was saying that, when other people in the wintertime months are red fishing and snook fishing, you're always trying to you can do all that stuff, but you're always trying to figure out where the tarpon are.
When the bonefish started to decline, what I had figured out was that there's a big population of tarpon year round, and Adam had booked me out of the shop. It's pretty funny. I think Adam Donahue.
Yeah.
So Adam books me out of the shop, and he had fished with some other guides in Bay Boat, and he was totally into fly fishing, and they would take him like mackerel fishing or something like that. And he gets on the boat and he says, I want to go bone fishing. And it's like slick calm in November. I think it was Thanksgiving. And I'm like, no, you don't. He's like, yeah, no. I want to go bone fishing. I'm like, no, you want to go tarpon fishing? He's like, yeah, no, I want to go tarpon fishing. And we go out and within like 5 minutes, he's fighting like an 80-pounder. We ended up hooking a couple more, catching a couple more, and he was destroyed from there. I think he's fished some of the tournaments now, and he's just kind of all about it. But I was having success catching tarpon 12 months a year. I couldn't do it on all the weather, but there were certain weathers where it was like insane. Like if I had somebody in August and it was like slick calm in the morning, we could go out and, certain times as the sun's coming up, the oxygen gets sucked out of the water. That's why tarpon will roll a lot more in the morning, because as the sun comes up, there's less oxygen in the water. And so the shrimp will come up to the surface to blow their own air bubbles. And these tarpon know about it, and it could be thousands of tarpon at a time, or used to be thousands and thousands of tarpon. You could throw a popper at them. So you're sitting there, and for the first hour, you're using a topwater fly on 20 to 130 pound tarpon and getting 15 to 30 bites in the morning. So it was like, what else am I going to do? Why wouldn't you do that if you could do that?
Right.
It doesn't really work like that anymore. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the bay, but a lot of that grass has grown back, and there's no mullet in the bay right now to speak of. The mullet feed on the sandy bottom, the silt. And so a lot of these basins now are covered with this grass in like the last 3 years.
Wow.
It's
come back.
Yeah, but I don't know that it's the right grass. From what I've heard, first you get this kind of grass, then the turtle grass fills in. Mm-hmm. But when you don't have the mud for those mullet to feed on, the mullet just keep moving and go somewhere else. So there's, the amount of spots. So that first happened like on 9 Mile. There was, all kinds of mullet out there or whatever, and this grass grew back and you stopped seeing the mullet out there. I remember this was going back a long time ago, and I was fishing with my brother. This was maybe a 92 or something like that. A slick, calm winter morning. It was a funny story about the old man. And we're sitting on the first point, and we're looking in the big basin there, and we haven't seen a tarpon roll. Water's a little chilly. And here comes Billy Knowles, and he sits next to us. He says, "You fellas seen anything?" And we said, no, we haven't seen anything. And he jumps up on a plane, and he runs down, not where the fish should be, but outside of it, does a big loop, comes back around, and right about the time he sits back down next to us, his boat wake is going over where the fish should be, and the whole basin just starts to roll. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tarpon.
Wow.
And he's like, "Boys, sometimes you got to wake them up and count them." And we fished with him in there that day, and I mean, we both just one after the other. But it was like, what else are you going to do? You know, guys were bone fishing until the bone fishing died. And I was taking people and going tarpon fishing. And I was staying booked year round. And guys were bone fishing. We were watching guys, you know, anglers that were serious anglers, bone fishermen leave and just start to go to the Bahamas. And those guys were losing some of their business. And I didn't have any more. I mean, I was as booked up as you could possibly be, you know? So
it's a more solidified, consistent fishery for you, the tarpon.
It's not right now. I mean, it was then. There's no question about it. And there was really nobody else. I mean, Timmy Klein was also doing, he was still a bone fisherman, but he would do a lot of that as well, of the wintertime stuff. But it's just not happening like it was for whatever reason. I don't know why.
So it's not sustainable for you year round as a tarpon guide right now?
Not right now. I mean, I'm having a harder time. So I do a lot more snook and redfish and stuff. And if the conditions are just right, you can do it and it can be pretty good. But it used to be, they didn't have to be just right. I mean, year round, you could go, it'd be blowing 15 or 20 and, you know, as long as the water temperature was a certain thing, certain places, you could end up going out and scraping 10 shots in the backcountry, and you'd have a big black fly on like that, and you get 5 bites.
Right.
No one's complaining about that.
Yeah, no doubt. What were some of the learning curves and the growing pains of being a guide?
So, well, the first one was, you know, a funny story I told you about just becoming a guide, where one of the first guys I ever fished says to me, "Hey, will you put this sunscreen on my back? And don't worry about the sores. They're cirrhosis and they hurt." So a lot of it was dealing with the customers. You know what I mean? Like, you're dealing with a lot of different personalities. You're in a small boat with somebody for a long period of time, and you're got to be a people person. But Huff told me something when I was going to become a guide, and he says, you know, you take somebody out and you don't show them a single fish, but you show them a good time, have a few laughs, make them feel comfortable. That guy's going to come back and fish with you again, probably. But you take that same guy out and catch a ton of fish with him, but berate him, yell at him, don't make him feel comfortable, and you still caught a bunch of fish, he's probably looking for another guide the next time he comes down here again. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it is you're in, you know, my customers are my best friends. You know, they're people I've traveled with, people my kids have traveled with. We've gone on different places. But, you know, when I was younger and I started, you could just pole somewhere and you would probably find fish there. I mean, this bank looks good. And, you know, you'd see a guy like Harry Spear or Huff in a spot and you'd be like, oh, I'm never going there. I can't go there. No way. But you could just go right over here and find fish. This younger generation doesn't really have that. So the spots are the spots. We have less spots. So everyone fishes the same spots. So it was very lucky in that aspect. But, you know, getting a grasp of the tides and the water levels, when you wanted to be somewhere, to be very precise, to be there when the fish are going to be there. Not just, you know, the spot is the spot. Everyone knows it. And I guess learning to fish the moment and not the memory was kind of a hard thing because, you know, things change all the time. I've just had a great, you know, season in the backcountry. My March was phenomenal, but almost every single spot I fish, and I probably shouldn't say this, the fish are at least a quarter of a mile away from where they normally are.
So the moral of the story is you got to fish the fish, not the spot.
You're going to fish the fish, and you know, you need to be like, not just stay in the spot.
Right,
like
sure.
If you see them, they move. Like take for Palm Lake, for instance. They used to get on one side of the lake. Then they moved over to the other side of the lake. Then they were over in this corner. Then they were over in this corner. Then they were over here. And the fact that I was tarpon fishing 12 months a year meant that I could stay on top of where they were going to be. And I had some like nice fishing by myself that I didn't have to worry about going there and somebody else was going to be there because I had a head start. You know, after a few weeks and everyone started tarpon fishing in March, then everybody would kind of be where the fish are and they get dialed in. But I was able to get dialed in 12 months out of the year. And, so that was a big advantage for tarpon fishing,
It's interesting.
How much information do you share with any of your buddies?
So Huff told me this. I told him, I'm going to become a fishing guide. And he said, I said, what advice do you have? And he says, if someone asks you where you fish, look them in the eye and lie to them. I don't care if it's your father. That's what Steve Huff told me. You have your circle, you know what I mean? And I think as there's less spots, you get more tight-lipped. Like I've talked a fair amount with Brian Helms about tarpon. Brian's pretty dialed in and he's a savvy fisherman. And you kind of learn, who to talk to and who not to talk to, but probably about 3 guys that I talk to about where I'm fishing and what I'm doing. And other than that, I just get vague or I just lie.
Yeah. Do you find yourselves concentrating in certain areas, certain times of the year because the fish are only in those areas? Like this time of year, they're not everywhere. They're not on the ocean. They're in little pockets here and there.
Yeah, you see the biomass move. So like earlier in the season, they might be in one area, and then you stop seeing them there, and they're kind of. I feel like it's a migration, and I think at one point I felt like there was more. So I think at one time I felt like there was this biomass, and that biomass would move here. And another biomass would be up here, and they'd fill in here, and then these would move over here, and they'd fill in there. I feel like we've lost biomass. I don't feel like we have the same number of tarpon that we once had. I feel like it was happening in more places at the same time. And now it just seems to be like in a few places, like maybe 1 or 2 of these biomasses that are coming through, big masses of tarpon. And I try and stay on those masses of tarpon as much as possible. Now, when I go back a few years, I just stayed in the back because I could be back there by myself. Everyone would move out to the ocean side, get out of the way back there, and I could go do my own thing and smash them. But like after March, there's not really any good fishing in the back anymore to speak of. I mean, not that I'm really seeing.
Where did they go?
They're all over here now. But that's why I think that
here being in the lower keys.
Well, no, the upper keys, but towards the island, not around Flamingo, not in the backcountry, not in the middle of the bay. So I think that it used to be like this mass, and then they'd move over here, let's say to Rabbit Key Basin, and another mass would move in here where they were, and then this mass would move over to the Keys. This mass would go to Rabbit Key Basin, but there was a constant big flow of different mass. I feel like it's just one big mass.
Closer to town.
Closer to town now is where they are. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm burning a couple gallons of gas right now, and we're hooking all the fish you want to, and they're all big, giant females and, fishing around other boats and boats running over us. And I mean, it just goes against everything I've ever thought about tarpon fishing. You used to see a boat run by a mile away and you'd be like, oh, damn it, why is he running so close to me? And now it's like I just wave at them when they run by 50 feet away from me because, they might push a tarpon towards me. We throw out in front of them and we catch them. It just makes no sense whatsoever where we're fishing for these tarpon right now. But it's working and we're catching them. And
they've acclimated.
They're just big, dumb tarpon. And they're going to acclimate and
the love of your life. She's big and dumb.
Well, the worst part about it is I love them so much. Like, I love them. I mean, I've got a tattoo of them, and they hate me. Tarpon literally hate me. They hate you. They hate you. They hate us so much, and we love them so much. It's not fair.
No.
It's not right.
It's diabolical.
It is terrible. It's like a sick joke or something. Like, we love these things. We protect them. We do anything for them. And they would be happy if we just disappeared.
Because we ripped their faces off and just
then we
pull
give
on
each
their
other
heads.
high fives and laugh at them. And
throw them in the boat back in the tournament days.
They hate us so bad. So I remember when I was a kid too, like my dad would be like fishing the Gold Cup and we would go to the weigh-in every afternoon. and they would bring these giant, tarpon. I mean, not giant because the fish seemed to have gotten bigger once they started strapping them, which is another kind of reason why I don't fish those tournaments as much. But they would take these tournaments, these fish, and they'd, put them in the water, and they'd drag them up and put them on the scale, and weigh them. And then at the end of the day, it was a shame, there'd be a pile of dead tarpon over here, and there was this one guy that would come pick them up. And he had like this old station wagon, and he put all these smelly, big, dumb, dead tarpon in the back of a station wagon and drive away with them. I guess he would scale them, and he'd turn them into like wind chimes or something like that and make decorations of them and everything like that. But this station wagon had flies flying all around it, and everything was terrible. Yeah, it was terrible. Wow. Yeah, so.
That would have been crazy to see.
But, I'm having one of the best tarpon seasons I've ever had, though. You talk about the times and the more crowds on the water and the more everything. My March was phenomenal. I mean, really, really good. And, windy, kind of tough weather, and, fought the elements. And, April's been great. As well. I can't complain about it. And weather's been kind of tough. And I think it's been a little colder. So I think this year we're going to have a little longer season.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be optimistic and, let it all fall where it's going to fall.
Why do you think these fish sometimes move out of certain zip codes and never come back? Like I remember when I was fishing back in the day, 9 Mile, the first and second point and all those, and they'd come down the edge, and they'd be pushing big wakes and stuff. Do they do that anymore?
No. I mean, I'll still fish 9 Mile at first point or something every now and again, and you'll get a random scoop. But the mullet left.
Oh.
That grass grew in, and the mullet are gone. And what's really kind of alarming to me now is that's happening further north in the bay now. It went to the third point. Now it's Man-O-War Basin and Johnson Lake. Not really. The area's gotten a lot smaller, that there's no grass on the bottom, and where there's mullet, and that's where the tarpon are in the bay.
So in 9 Mile, you used to see the schools come in and they'd bust mullet?
You wouldn't necessarily see it, but it was 9 Mile was a muddy water spot.
Yes.
On an incoming tide, it would get like flamingo, dirty water.
Really?
And so they would bite. I mean, it were like, if you got the fly in front of schools coming across, and they would show themselves so you could fish it in the morning. And there were 3 spots on that bank, and there was a real, defined etiquette as to how you did it. And, they would eat the fly. You could throw a big black fly there. Whereas if you just got on the other side of the Arsenic or Keys, there wasn't mullet at the time or as much in the pocket or something like that, and those fish were a lot harder to get a bite out of. And
so there's no mullet in there, and so that's why they don't come in. They were coming in for the mullet.
I think so. I think their whole life. Now, I also think there's a lot of things that we don't know, because I think it happens at night. So I think that these fish come in somewhere that they used to come in. They kind of look around at night and they find a bunch of mullet. They eat it, and then wherever they are, they just go to sleep. So then the next night, they're in there eating, and then you get more that come in there and more. And, over a couple nights, the next thing you know, you've got a basin that's loaded with tarpon. Now I think those fish are getting into some of these places, looking around. They're not seeing what they want, so those first ones are leaving.
They're not staging.
Yeah. They're not staying there because the food's not there. Mm-hmm. Where we're fishing now in Islamorada, this crazy place where boats run down, if food is there, and these fish in there are eating minnows, and I would imagine worms at some point or whatever, they're going to be wherever they want to be if there's food there. And they're eating at night, so we don't always know what they're doing or what they're eating. I mean, they're going to put up with humans. I mean, they swim down the ocean side where people are throwing French fries at them, for goodness sake, right. And they keep coming, But I think as we're losing that bottom where the mullet are holding up and staying, our area gets smaller and smaller. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the biggest reason why we're losing certain spots in the bay.
You speak about really early morning I mean, 3, 4, 5 in the morning when it's still really pitch dark. And that's, as Croker said, that's, when you want to see the thunder.
Oh, yeah.
When they're out there smashing these things.
Yeah.
And by the time the sky is lit, it's over.
It's over.
Yeah.
They're done. They're moving on to wherever they're going to go to sleep for the day. Yeah, they're nocturnal.
Here's one thing that a lot of people don't realize is during the day when we're trying to catch them on flies, they're not biting.
No.
We're enticing them to bite it.
That's right.
If we get the fly in the right spot and bump it, you can convince that fish to eat that bug.
Right.
The worst thing you can throw at them is a mullet in the middle of the day.
That's right.
Or a crab. I mean, sometimes maybe, because I hear a lot of guys who are spin fishing and pitching little $50 size crabs at them,
right,
like down here in the lower keys, so they could sight fish them and flip crabs. But for the most part, they're not feeding that time of day.
That's right.
It was funny when you brought your friend down here a couple of years ago. He had no luck, and he was getting shots. And at the end of the trip, he looked at you and said, "Man, I thought we were going to be fishing for feeding tarpon."
I know. I mean, I think that's the biggest myth about tarpon fishing on a fly. A lot of people that don't really do it that well, it's really hard to get the fly in the right spot.
Yep.
It's a real technical game now in the ocean. In the back, it's a lot easier because you can find some dirty water, but it's probably gotten better or harder.
You can't find dirty water back there. I mean, in the back, I'm throwing oceanside flies at them at times back there now, right. Whereas I used to put the biggest, gnarliest black fly on and throw at him. Oh, no, pick it up and go 2 feet left. No, pick it up and go a foot to the right. No, back a foot right. Okay, give me a foot longer. Okay, good. Strip, bite.
Right.
Now, if it's not in the right place the first time back there, they gone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, in a lot of places, not everywhere. I mean, there's places back there now that I see the bottom in a 12-foot channel that I've never even hardly seen the bottom on a high tide up on the flat. And I can see the bottom in a channel back there because of the lack of mullet.
Interesting.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So the game has gotten really technical.
Back there, it's gotten more technical.
Everywhere.
Yeah, they still bite better back there than they probably would on the ocean side. But you go back there and slick calm and you get into a wad of fish and it's not a layup anymore like it was. You got to fish them and it's got to be in the right place and it's got to be the right bug. And, it's definitely become more technical. It was stupid easy.
How have you seen the bite tippet change, which is the monofilament off the fly, till you get to your class tippet? A lot of people might not understand a bite tippet or a shock tippet.
Well, I use a lot smaller now. I mean,
even in the back?
Yeah, when it's clear in the back. If it's muddy, I'll go 60, back there. But around town and place I'm fishing, I'm going 40 and even 30.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, 30. What happens if you're not throwing the worm fly? What happens when you get a bite with 30-pound bite tippet?
It'll cut it a lot of times.
But you're getting the bite.
Yeah, you're getting the bite, and then a lot of times you'll wear through it. But I don't have a problem with that. I'm totally anti-long fight. Like, to me, if we don't get them, if you're not going to float them to me in 15, 20 minutes tops, I'm just going to tighten the drag down and let that fish get away. There's too many sharks around now, and it's just, I believe that those long fights are a death sentence to a tarpon. And if I'm telling someone how to pull, reverse, go down his tail, and they're not doing what I'm saying, then we're never going to get that fish.
No. Right.
And we're going to lose them anyway, an hour later or however long, and then we just killed that fish. So the problem is they have a pair of pliers in their mouth sometimes, and they can, they cut it.
Sure.
But a lot of times I think if they get it in that plier, they're cutting 30, they're probably going to cut 40, and they might even cut 50. I mean, I've had them cut 60 like that, on the bite. Doesn't maybe happen as much, but I'm much more about the bites.
Right, for sure.
Like get the hook up, get a couple of jumps out of them and let them fall off, and let's get another one.
What's interesting that I've seen over the years is on the ocean fishing, small little worm flies. Usually that hook is right here on the button.
Right.
And you can fish 30 and not get anywhere through.
Little sippy bite up there and get them right at the top. Yeah.
Do you like fishing the ocean? I know that you're the king of the back.
No, I don't. I'm not a big ocean fisherman. I've become more and I do it more, but I mean, I'm going to catch a lot of slack from this, but it's just too easy. You just go sit on a pool. I mean, from a guiding standpoint.
You mean too easy to find them?
Yeah, it's all your angler if you're going to catch them or not.
But a good guide teaches that angler how to catch them.
Some of them can do it. Some guys can't swing a golf club. Other guys can. I have fished a lot of guys through the years because fishing in the backcountry that just aren't going to be. They're older guys.
Right.
They can catch a lot of fish with me in the back when it was really good in the back, but they would have no chance on the ocean. Now I've kind of cultivated that, and I have more guys that are a little better on the ocean. I owe you guys a thank you. I have this guy, Paul Shalee, and his son, Jonah, and they had a place in Sarasota, and they're like avid anglers. They're going to be like the anglers of old, like that just fish all the time, want to get better, blah, blah. And they didn't like it in Sarasota because there was nothing to catch. And so they would have to go to the Bahamas to go fishing or Belize. And Jonah saw your podcast, said, Dad, I think we should go to the Keys. We should go to the Keys and check it out. So they were on their way back from the Bahamas, and they book 2 days out of the shop, and they end up with me, and it's slick, calm, and like perfect. And we go back there and we wreck the tarpon, catch a bunch of cobia, red, snook. Never see any other boats out there whatsoever. And within 45 days, Paul had bought a big house from me.
We should get commissions.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, no, it was a big one too. And he's tearing it down and building his forever house here, and booking a bunch of days. And these guys want to be the best anglers and like learn and tradition. And Jonah loves your podcast, so I give a little shout out to Paul and Jonah.
Thank you.
The real estate thing, was that to spend more time with your kids and to get off the water a little more?
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. And it just, as you get older, things are more expensive. I got a son in college, and I was grinding and fishing. And as a fishing guide, you can make a great living and do really well. I expected to sell a house every couple years, and it's been a lot better than that. So I've been very, very lucky on that. But yeah, it was to be able to take my kids fishing more, have more free time, be able to go on vacations with them, and not be as much a slave on the back of the boat where, oh no, I can't leave that time of the year because maybe I get a trip. It's a slow time of the year or whatever. Everything I do is around my kids. I mean, my boys are my life. Like, if my boys are happy, I'm happy, and they're great kids. I'm very, very lucky. They couldn't be any different. Tristan's a little bit more into nature and wants to go fishing or whatever. And Landon's the lacrosse player, and, he's older, so you could tell, but kind of the ladies guy and everything like that, and really good. And, Tristan told me the other day, this was a few months ago, he's like, Dad, I really want to see a sunrise. He's 8 years old. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. So I wake him up one morning at like 5 o'clock, and I say, all right, you're not going to school this morning. We're going out to see a sunrise. So we end up going. I take him over to Worldwide. We buy some shrimp, and literally we spend a half hour. He's playing with the shrimp in the well and feeding the tarpon out back there. And we run out, and sun starts coming up. I stop the boat and I spin it around, and oh, it's beautiful. This is so cool. And then I go to a spot, and there's baby tarpon all over the place. He catches his first tarpon at 8 years old. And then, we end up jumping in the water, taking a little swim, and then we run back and eat breakfast. And he's telling all the girls at Mangrove Mike, I got my first tarpon, everything like that. So it was like such a special day, And, but yeah, no, everything I do in real estate and fishing and grinding is, for my boys, whether it's as an example too, or just to make it so I can spend more time with. That's just what I do.
You mentioned earlier that you don't really care about how many boats you see out there and where those boats are.
Right.
I think that's really a voice coming from wisdom and mileage, if you will. How did you get to that point? And was there a break-even point where you got to a place where you were going crazy? And how did you get to the other side?
So I don't think I was ever a place that I was going crazy, but I got really lucky early on. And I saw in one of your podcasts there was a pocket story. So I have a pocket story that really was a changer in my guiding. I'm leaving in the ladies tarpon tournament, fishing Sid Nielsen, and we're the first boat, and I want the pocket. I'm going to get the pocket. So I line it up the day before, like that island. If I pull my head back, it should be that gap, and I'll be right on the pocket. So I go and I do it, and I'm like, I'll stake the pull out. Here comes Bobby Reineman. You know, my dad used to fish with him. I'm like intimidated by Bobby, like this big, burly guy, and I'm 22 years old. I've been guiding like 5 minutes. And he comes over the bank, sticks his pole in right here, and I'm like right here. Says, son, you're not in the pocket. You're not allowed to fish in the pocket. You're not allowed to fish in front of the pocket. You can leave now. And so I left. I was like a little intimidated. So I go out to the first point. There's 3 boats on the first point. I had never fished the second point before. And Bob Branham sitting on the second point, but I knew it was a 2-boat spot. So I come in behind Bob, stake the boat out. We catch 5 and end up in second in the tournament. And Bobby caught nothing in the pocket. So I was Bob. I'm like, there might be something to this karma thing. You know what I mean? And so I just always going back to, you want your customers to be happy. I can swallow a bad taste. I don't want them to have to swallow a bad taste.
Right.
And so you get out on the water and you get into it with somebody. You don't know what your guy's thinking about that situation. And he's probably not enjoying that when he's giving you a lot of money to go fishing and have a good day and enjoy his time, and you're having this situation. I would say in 27 years of guiding, I've maybe had words with other guides other than, hey, good morning, or
right.
How's it going? Maybe 2 or 3 times.
Well, I think that you misunderstood the question in that we ever bothered by just not having arguments and issues with people where they're fishing and cutting you off, etc., but by how many boats you were seeing.
Oh, yeah.
And so how did you get to the other side that it's going to be okay? I'm okay with this. This is my playground. I'm good.
Still catching just as many as ever before.
But their temperament was what was that to get you to the other side? Like I can't win this argument?
No, you can't win. Yeah, no, it's going to happen. It's going to get more. It's going to be more. You can get old and bitter, or you could still enjoy what you're doing and look past it. And, you know, it's still great. I still love it. I still want to go do it all the time. And there's boats all around. I mean, and I don't know if there was any one thing other than it's just like, it's what's going to happen. It's going to get worse.
You got to deal with it.
You got to deal with it. You can get bitter about it and not enjoy what you're doing, or you can go out and have a good time and, you know, get better and be the guy catching the fish, you know, which is what I probably thrived more. I mean, I didn't fish a lot of the tournaments, but I guarantee you if I was in a basin, there was 5 boats, I wanted to be the guy who was hooked up every single time.
For sure.
You know,
was it hard for you not to fish the tournaments and want to win the Gold Cup and these big things that were so important to that fishing village?
So I've had a couple of things that happened. Like we came in second in the Gold Cup one year, and
who were you fishing with?
Smitty.
Okay.
And we hooked a fish up on the coast that would have gave us the victory. And Smitty was pretty good at fighting fish. And he was just babying this thing, babying it. It went on and on and on and on. And a bull shark comes on it. And I smack the bull shark in the head and get rid of the bull shark, and he's still not pulling on. I'm like, Smitty, you got to pull on it like you pull everything else. And about 15 minutes later, a bull shark comes in out of nowhere and just freight trains this thing. And there was nothing left but scales and blood. And so, you know, that was kind of like, you know,
left
bummer.
a bad taste in your mouth.
Then I had another day with a great client of mine, amazing angler. I think we were in second that year in the Golden Fly. And the last day we go 1 for 11. If we catch one more release, we win the Golden Fly. And I'm running home on a day that we went 1 for 11, and I'm pissed off. And I'm just like, why? You know, that's a great day of tarpon fishing. We just had a blast, you know. We were like high-fiving, but we just didn't landed.
You didn't win.
Yeah, we didn't win. And so the highs were high and the lows were low. And a lot of times too, you'd have this marathon week of fishing ahead of you. And you know when you're in the zone. The tournaments that I've won, we were in the zone. And we knew it the first day, things happened like that were good. And, like, oh, that fish you land, or, somebody else jumped off or whatever it was, but you just get into that zone and nothing can really get in your way. Like you can't stop it from happening. It's like almost happening around you. And, if you're not in that zone and the first day you go out and you jump 4 off, you still have a chance. I understand that, but now you've got 4 days ahead of you and your mind's like, we screwed up. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't our year. We should have caught one of those 4 and strapped them or something like that. So maybe that was like not the best. But and then the other thing was like, these guys were going out and 5 o'clock in the morning. I was leaving at 8 o'clock in the morning. I had started fishing in February because my season always started a lot earlier than other guys. I felt like I was booked. This was like the culmination of my season. Now you were going to have the 3 hardest weeks working wise that you were ever going to have. Whereas when the tournaments I wasn't fishing, we were leaving at 8 o'clock. Eating breakfast before we went out, 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. We could have any tarpon spot we wanted anywhere in Islamorada. And at the end of the day, I was getting the same amount of money as anybody else. Mm-hmm. I regret it now a little bit. Like, I wish I would have just said, all right, I'm going to fish every freaking tournament for 20 years. I know I'd be on that trophy. I mean, I can't say that because I'm not. But I just never did it. I think I fished a Gold Cup 4 times. Came in second once, most releases once, I think 4th once. The Golden Fly, second one. I think I fished it, half a dozen times, second, couple most releases. I never went after them. And like now I might kick myself in the butt a little bit, but, during the time I was enjoying fishing, and those weeks were the end of my season, the culmination of my season. All the guys were like, I had to look at the zombies at the end of the day at the dock at the Lorelei. All the guides and everything, were just totally spent, and I'm still got a hop in my step. And
how important would that be to have your name on the Gold Cup trophy?
Obviously not as important as, because I would have done it. It never was like, I don't know why. I mean, I'd like to do it maybe. In fact, Baker and I have talked about maybe doing it here in a little while. Baker's a guy that could probably get it done. But there was also other things as well. Like I had some places that I was fishing that not a lot of other people were fishing. And I've never seen anything screw a spot up more than someone doing well in a tournament there. So the word gets out of where such and such was fishing. It might not be until after the tournament. But like the year that Craig and Thane caught those 5 on the swim bank. Nobody was fishing the swim bank at that time. Craig, me, and Perry, and a couple guys in and out, but nobody was. He did that, and after that, it was I could pull into the swim bank at 11:59 for a 12 o'clock tide. Before that, after that, for a 12 o'clock tide, you might have to go there at 7 in the morning and sit there all day long. So I also saw that, like if I had some stuff that I was fishing that I could go to at 8 o'clock. If I did that in a tournament and did well, I wouldn't be able to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of things in that I didn't.
There's a lot of give and take with tournaments for sure.
Yeah.
And I think once you get out of that mindset, it's all good. It's all good.
Right.
Stuff in the past is it's in the past.
Right.
What do you? How long do you think you might want to guide, if not forever?
I mean, I don't know. You think about retiring at 65 or something like that or whatever, but why wouldn't you guide 100 days a year if you could for the rust of your life? I mean, Billy did it.
I was just going to say, Billy Knowles did,
Billy
man.
Knowles did it. And
that's where your heart is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great, like I said, most of the guys I fish are some of my best friends, and I am trying to get like more different people on my boat at times now because of the real estate thing. Obviously, the more variety of anglers you have, the more possibilities somebody ends up buying a house from you down here. But I can't see. I still love it. I mean, I think if I didn't love it, you'd probably start saying, "Okay, when am I going through the door?"
Well, I don't see you saying, "God, I wish I could go sell a house tomorrow. I can't wait to drive somebody around."
No, you don't.
No, I want to go catch a big fat tarpon.
But I do love the real estate too. I always have. I study it like I studied fishing. I mean, I like to stay up on what's going on. I have my opinions on that. And I do. I've always been interested in that. It's not like something that I just grabbed out of nowhere that wasn't, something that I was really into.
Well, here's the problem I have with like Aspen, which is like a small town. It used to be a small town similar to Islamorada. Islamorada is no longer a small town. Do you feel like, and you see the traffic in Islamorada now and the popularity of it all the way from Miami to Key West, has it killed your, the heart of that town by having so many people there, how many people fishing? Like I see that in Aspen. I don't recognize Aspen for what I grew up seeing.
Right.
And the old school people are there, but they're far and few between.
Right.
I miss old Aspen. Do you miss old Islamorada?
Of course I miss old Islamorada. I mean, it was, we grew
how
up
can
and
you
we
not
came
miss
up
it?
in the best of times and the
Sure.
best place ever. That was like the most amazing place. But I'd like to see the silver lining in it. Like we got better restaurants now. Everything's been upgraded so you can have like a fine dining experience in Islamorada. And the growth of Islamorada can't really be compared as much to like Aspen because it's only an island this long. So there's only so many houses that can be built in so many places. I don't like to see it, but it goes back to it's going to happen. Like,
Sure, you can't stop a
better,
train.
not bitter, right? You can't stop the train. And I think about where else would I want to live, and I can't come up with anywhere else. There's nowhere else that,
Gives you the
freedom.
freedom.
The freedom is a great place to raise your kids. Everyone knows your kids, looking out for your kids, and the schools are amazing in Islamorada. You could throw the boat in the water and 10 minutes later be catching something or grabbing some lobsters or doing whatever. And, I'd love to find that little portal that's a little time machine that I could run through every day when I go fishing, but it's still great.
Yeah,
I mean, fishing's great.
It really is.
I mean, how many tarpon you see today?
Yeah, it's like Nikki and I have been coming here. I've been here doing this for almost 40 years.
Right.
And I can't help but think it's the fish that gets us out onto that ocean.
You wouldn't be here without the tarpon.
We were saying yesterday, oh my God, there was not a fish to be found. We're on the ocean. It's too early. But it was the most beautiful place on the planet.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous. And it's all because this gravitational pull, from the tarpon.
Yep.
That's all it has. That's all it is, man. I mean, I love the big downtown bonefish back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, my God.
Yeah.
Were you running around in a little John boat chasing those things like Andy Thompson was in Key Biscayne?
Well, I had a little McKee craft, which was like 13 feet, and it had a little, I think it was a 40 on it. And we would do like some different stuff, little bone fishing on the west side of Biscayne Bay. But I used to troll in Biscayne Bay, like jigs, and catch donkey mangrove snappers, big speckled sea trout, Spanish mackerel. There was lobster over there. We go lobstering and stuff. This was all when I was, young, 10. I got the boat when I was 10. My brother, I was lucky because my brother was like 11 and a half or 12. So I was only allowed in the canals of the area, but I was able to use the boat.
Did you jump out of those canals and take a good run?
It's a funny story. So I was in the Keys and I had my sister in the boat. It was me and Charlie Scoble. And the cutoff of where I was allowed to go was Bowlegs Cut, which is about 5 miles from where my dad's house was. And we were over at Flamingo with my sister in the boat, about 22 miles away. And she sees the tower at Flamingo and she's like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "Charlie," I think Charlie Scoble said, "That's Bowlegs Cut." So it's like another 2 years later, my sister's in the boat over at Flamingo with my dad. And she wants to impress him, and she goes, "Look, Dad, there's Bowleg's cut." And so my dad's like, "Who told you that?" Drew told me that. We were over here fishing. So, yeah.
That is hilarious.
Did you ever get in trouble from, getting out there too far and getting caught or running out of gas?
So I did one time, but it was pretty funny how I got out of this one. So me and a buddy, Andy Green, that I grew up with, and he had a friend that was down from like Canada that he went to summer camp. We weren't allowed to cross Biscayne Bay. And here we are, we're going lobstering, and we're all the way across the bay at Elliott Key. And we get wrapped up in a lobster trap. So I trimmed the motor up. At this time, I had a Sidewinder. It was my dad's old Sidewinder with a 140 on it. I mean, it was a rocket ship. And we're lobstering over there, get wrapped up, trim it up. And so what are you going to do? You pull the trap, put it in the boat, and unravel it. And the trap is literally stacked with lobster. You could not fit another lobster in there. So we open it up, dump it in the cooler. We're just little kids at the time. Throw it over, go to trim the motor down, and it won't go down. We're out of hydraulic fluid. So it's stuck up. We're across the bay on the outside of Elliott Key, nowhere near where we're supposed to be. No one's going to look for us. So we take the cooler full of lobster, which is so heavy, and we put it on the back of the boat. So now the prop is just barely in the water, and we're like idling back across Biscayne Bay. But it's like 5 o'clock, and it's in the winter. The sun's going down. They've called the whole armada. The Coast Guard's looking for us. Some shrimper finds us, and he tows us in to Kings Bay, which is on the west side near where we lived and everything. And parents are sitting on the dock like this, Andy Green's dad, my dad, everything like that. And he comes over, and I kind of open the cooler and show him. And he says, "All right, put that in the back of my car," and never heard another thing about the whole thing. He took all the he was happy to have all the lobsters.
But there's always a trade-off somehow.
But, I've always just felt, I've been on the water my whole life. Like, since I was a little kid, I've always felt comfortable on the water. I've had some crazy incidents that I've been involved in. I had a guy have a stroke on my boat, and it was a full-on bad stroke. Was able to call 911. We were sitting on the swim bank. Called 911. Told them to have an ambulance meet me at Indian Key Phil and send the helicopter from Jackson Memorial. And this guy's just in the boat. I had thrown some chewable Tylenol down his throat, and I'm like, making him chew him up. And I run to the next boat. There's a guy named Andy Patetti, and Andy's there with his customer. I said, I need you to hold this guy because, he's just dead weight at the time. And Andy jumps in my boat, leaves his angler on the swim bank, and we go running in, pull into the paramedics are waiting for us. And they're stopping traffic on the highway, and the helicopter is coming in and landing on US 1. And so they get this guy, the stroke. I guess they knew it was a stroke. They give him the clot buster, and then he's on his way to Ryder, and saved his life.
Wow.
He ended up living. And
did he fish with you ever again?
Yeah, I actually have him booked at this was 10 years ago it happened. I didn't see him for a while, but now we get a couple of days in every year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's lost some weight. He's in better shape, and he's doing all right. And then I was running in one afternoon, and there was like an island here, and this other guide was running really fast, and I'm way behind him, and he, boom, right into the middle of the island. I'm like, oh my God, that guy just crashed into that island. And then I'm like, he must be going around it. Why would he crash into the island? So now I come up on the scene, and this skiff is 15 feet up in the trees, propellers going, whoa, and his client's in the water with a mangrove impaled in his side, and this is the prop right here spinning uncontrollably. And the guide is just like walking around like nothing. So I did it. I back up, call 911, send the helicopter.
Wow.
Need an ambulance there. The guy ends up unimpaling himself. I take and it just starts gushing out. He's just he's bleeding like crazy. I take my shirt off, and it's the winter. It was really cold, and I roll it up and I tie it over,
Sure.
the cut. And his kids were in the boat and the guide. And I'm like, I'll come back and get you guys in a bit. And I go running in, get to the dirt ramp. They end up flying him to the trauma center, punctured lung, shattered ribs. I mean, bad shape. Probably would have not made it if not. Then I go back out to get the kids, and Mikey had picked him up. So I'm passing Mikey Ehlers on the way back. He said he saw heads. The boat was so far up in the trees that he saw heads bouncing up and arms waving. He couldn't even see the boat as he was running by.
Wow.
And
what happened to that boat?
They don't even. I never got an answer as to really what happened. The guy
lost steering.
The guy had a nickname at Bud and Mary's, was Mr. Magoo. He was kind of older. He'd been in a couple accidents, so I don't know if he fell asleep. He was going really fast, and he was cutting around really close to the island. So I don't really know what happened to this day. I got a call that evening. The guy had already got a lawyer. And the lawyer's calling me, hey, I heard there was an accident in Islamorada. I want to come down and talk to you about it or whatever. And so I guess there was a lawsuit or something. And that was a second incident that, I had on the water. But,
Jeez.
And basically got him there and,
How often do you have new people that you take out fishing?
Take out a lot of new people. I mean, I don't during the season. So
right.
Let's say from, about February until the middle of July, it's all my regular guys. But, with my dad having the shop, I get new guys through the shop. And, I like fishing new guys, I mean, I like a lot of them become good clients of yours,
right.
Good friends of yours.
And they buy really big houses in
They
Islamorada.
buy really big houses. And it's funny because I had one that I sold. It was a guy, Chris Verbisky, one of my best friends ever. I love Chris. And they had been down here for a long time, and I fished with them forever. But their daughter was going to high school, and they weren't going to have their house anymore. So I was able to sell his house. And that was a really good client of mine that was leaving. And then a month later, this new guy comes in, Paul Chalet, who's new and enthusiastic about it and ready to go and hard charging and everything like that. So, it works out in the end. Everything always works out in the end.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like everything's worked out well for you.
Well,
Real
you
quick,
never know. A small town fisherman. Look at you now.
No, thanks.
I spoke to Ron Ratliff, and he said that during Hurricane Irma, you went down to Louisiana and helped him big time and a lot of the Louisiana guys, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, Ron's good people. I just was on the phone with him on the way down. I didn't know you talked to him. That's pretty funny. He told me to tell you guys hi, so we're going to have to talk about that. You guys talked. But Ron went through a lot. It was funny. I guided out in Louisiana, and Ron was like a social media guy, and he was all over the place and everything, and he reaches out to people and, kind of become friends. He's a nice, likable guy and a good fisherman over there. So I'm going out there to guide. Me and Chris Jones decided to start guiding there, and we're going to this area that we had no idea where Ron was. Well, it turns out that the house we rented was across the street from where Ron lives, and I had no idea. I just met him, and I was on the phone with, we're at this house or whatever, and he says, come outside of your house. You know how he talks like a Cajun. And he was right there, and we were right here. Yeah, I know, it's fun. Like, the first day I show up there, I'm like, what the hell is going on? Here goes John Donnell. Here goes Mike Ayler. There goes Brian Helms, Jeff Johnson. There was 2 local Louisiana guides where we ended up, and everyone else was from Islamorada. And there was only 10 guides total when we started, and we went there. It was really, really cool. And we were late to the party.
Are you still going over there at all?
No. I mean, I'll go there and fish every now and again, but it's so hard to do that because if you book days and the weather's bad, that place is pure evil.
I know.
I mean, it's like, and they throw you and it's raining and 40 degrees and the guys want you to go until you beg to pay them to take you in, and you're just like, yeah, so it's hard to do it. I've always said to guys, hey, let's be ready to go like in February or, late January and just look and see if the weather gets good and we'll go like the next day or something like that we haven't really done that yet. But I loved it there. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was so fun, and caught tons of fish. I mean, it was.
Was it hard to learn that area over there?
No, it was stupid easy. I mean,
Really?
It's probably gotten harder now, but Chris had 3 days. I had 2 days. And then 30 days of charters. The first year we went there. And
so you had two
days to run around.
To like pre-fish and scout.
2 days. The marsh could have bit me on the nose. I wouldn't have known where it was. And I fished for 2 days and we smashed. I mean, just smashed fish after fish. It was so stupid. The first day, I couldn't even believe it. The first day I'm chartering. I've got this guy, Zach Bogard, and some buddy of his. They double header 25-pound reds. And we're like taking pictures. Oh, this is great. And Zach takes the fly and throws it in the water right there to strip out line. And a 25-pounder comes from under the boat and eats the fly and he catches it.
I want to fish there. I have fished there, actually.
Yeah, you probably have.
I have with Andy Thompson. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. When it's on fire, I used to say if these things jump, we'd never tarpon fish again.
No, we will. I'm not buying that one.
But it is a fun fishery, and they're so rewarding, and they eat anything.
They eat anything, and there's good. And when it's good, there's so many of them.
And it's great for someone that's just starting out fly fishing. It's such a great fish to target.
That's right.
Yeah,
it really is because they eat. You don't have to be be Yeah, it's not so technical. You just have to endure the cold fronts that come rolling through there periodically.
Evil. It was a long time. We were guiding 30 days in a row, and it was tough. But
anything that we haven't covered that you'd love to touch base on?
I'm sure I thought of a few things like when I was coming down and wanted to talk about, but we've kind of gone over a lot of stuff. That's for sure. I just luckiest guy in the world. Get to do what I want to do. Great kids, Holly makes it easy for me to do everything I need to do. We have one rule at the house: you're never late from a fishing trip. No such thing as being late from a fishing trip. So, that's good, and I can get in. It's...
Well, looking at you from afar, I've seen a great man grow. I've been down here for 40-some years. Met your dad when he had the shop right next to the Loreley's over there. I walked into the store and said, "Where is that long-haired hippie?" 'Cause I always saw him on the Walker's Cay Chronicle with Flip, and as a ski racer, I wanted to see that show every Saturday morning.
Right.
And the first time I got the keys, I knew who he was, and I went looking for him.
Right.
And I went in. You can ask your dad. I said, "Where is that hippie?" And you were much younger then, and fishing the tournaments all those years, and seeing your pals like Timmy Klein and Robert and everybody. Yeah. It's a great neighborhood, and they respect you so much.
Oh,
the community, let me tell you something, they love you.
Oh.
You have earned your major wings, man.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, you know what? That's one of the things you talk about, the kids that you grew up with. I mean, these are the kids that you grow up with now, like Timmy, all the best friends. You see each other at the dock. Like, you're so lucky. Like, where do people get the same fraternity or camaraderie that we get, connected by poon? We all love it. Everyone loves it. Some people might butt heads with it, but at the end of the day, this is like the fabric that holds this whole thing together. And it's great freaking people like you and Nikki here and the next generation and the older generation. And there's a lot of respect for tradition and the different people involved in this sport. And it's just, Islamorada is like the greatest place to live because if I want to go to Publix, I got to make sure that I'm not in a hurry to go somewhere because I'm going to run into 3 people that I end up hanging out with and having a conversation with and excited to see.
Yeah, you've mentioned that so well in the fact that it's almost like Islamorada's got like a boat ramp.
Yeah.
And a bar.
That's right.
And everybody leaves and comes back to the bar.
That's
and they're right next to each other.
That's right.
It is such a wonderful melting pot. Because you get back, you see it's almost like a tournament.
That's right.
You get back off the water and everybody's there. Tell me a story.
Yep.
And the Lorelei right there, oh my God.
Yep.
All those years that everybody has evolved their entire lives through that small area.
Yep.
But we could go back to all the guys that we've already lost, over the years.
Yeah. And every angler comes through there. I mean, if you're a fly angler, sooner or later you go through Islamorada or you go through the lower keys, like you're gonna come through there.
Regardless if you're an offshore fisherman or a trout fisherman or whatever.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're gonna go through Islamorada, see what the tarpon thing is all about at some point or time. Whether you're a bait fisherman, you're gonna do it at a bridge, or whether you're a fly guy and you're gonna do it a trout guy, a steelhead or salmon guy or whatever. You're going to come through Islamorada because it's the shit.
Well, thanks so much, Drew.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed your story, buddy.
I really appreciate it. I'm glad we could do it.
No, love you so much, and your family, your dad, and your fatherhood. You know, keep doing great things.
Sure. Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Drew.
Thanks.
What a soul is just that story. What a soul is just a